Hello everyone, welcome back to Factorio C Block. I'm Bobbin, you're watching episode 17, and there's this big setup in front of me, and I am going to explain that in detail in a moment. But first, let's talk about what has transpired between episodes just a little bit. There's not a great deal that has transpired. I do have one new build to show you. We're going to do another build. I'm going to explain this one. This one is really just an experimental build at this point. I'm going to use it, but I'm going to move it a little bit first. I'm not going to do that on camera most likely, though. I will explain it before then. But there's been quite a bit of research done. I'm having a problem with too much copper. And the copper is backing up and it blocks my iron production. And the way to solve that, temporarily at least, is to do research, because the research consumes copper faster than it consumes iron. And so that lets more iron come through as a result of consuming some of the extra copper. I don't want to put storage in, but I may have to. In any case, a whole lot of research got done. Most of it is not anything particularly important, so I'm not going to read off the list because it's a pretty long list, maybe 20-25 items. The important ones were chlorine processing and powder metallurgy, because that opened up the opportunity to get gold smelting and aluminum smelting, and I need to process both of those pretty soon. Also titanium smelting, and I got advanced glass smelting 1 and 2. I did get advanced inserters. That's part of Bob's mods. Basically, there are a whole bunch of inserter techs, and each one of them allows you to configure inserters a little better using this interface right here. The one that I got allows right angle insertions, so you can pick up, let's say, on the left and insert in the top, for example. That's one potential way to do it. You can configure it. It's very flexible. Nice for compact builds. Let's see here. I also got lab research speed 1 and 2. We are doing research much faster now. It runs short on materials if I leave it going long enough, but that's good because I want to use up all that copper. Lab research speed 1 and 2, we're running 8 labs. Oil steam cracking, gas steam cracking, and electric boiler, those are in use in the build you see in front of you. So I also added a new mod. I added the text plates mod, which is actually a pretty nice mod. I'm using it for doing notation, and it works pretty much like this. We can go and put in a message here and just do that and spell it out on the screen, and that's very nice. I've done a little bit more on metal production, and I'm going to show you that build in a minute. I've also been sort of expanding out the base in various ways. Nothing really elaborate. Okay, let's start by talking about this build. This is my setup for plastic. One of my immediate short-term goals is going to be to get red circuits going. Red circuits is entirely necessary for progression. I think it's also probably going to be pretty helpful for me in terms of I may decide to use Angel's logistics robots. They're sort of an intro logistics robot set that doesn't require any blue tech. The most advanced thing it requires is red circuits. They're very slow, but there are certain applications for which I think they might still be useful. So it's possible that I will do that as sort of a preliminary early robot setup before I move into the more advanced ones that have been revamped by Bob's mods. In any case, let's go ahead and start another research because I gotta keep burning that copper. And the one I was looking at here was electrolysis 2. It doesn't give us anything. It's a Bob's mod one that has been supplanted by Angel's mods, but it does open up other technologies, and in particular it leads to advanced electronics, which we're going to need for red circuits. So let's go ahead and get that one. Research, it's pretty fast. Let me go ahead and hit the Alt key here to turn on the display of what machines are doing. Here we have all this set up, and it's producing plastic bars. And there are a whole ton of machines here. You would expect with all these machines that it probably produces plastic at a pretty good rate, but it actually doesn't. This machine is running a recipe that's capable of producing 2 plastic bars per second. If the machine speed was 1, the machine speed is only 3/4, which means we can produce 1.5 plastic bars per second, or 3 per 2 seconds, I guess. Something like that. Anyway, that's all that all this apparatus produces. And let's pick the next technology. The next one here on here would be chemical processing 2. Another Bob's Mod one. It does give us a steel chemical furnace that has no use, a mechanism for calcium chloride that may be useful, and liquid fuel, which might or might not be useful. I don't know. Okay, so what's going on here is this machine is consuming liquid plastic to produce plastic bars. It requires 40 liquid plastic every 2 seconds to produce 4 plastic bars. These machines are producing every 2 seconds 40 or 10 liquid plastics, so you would need 4 of them, but actually these machines are more than twice as fast as this one, so 2 will suffice. The particular recipe they're running is probably the easiest one for plastic, by the way, to convert propane gas into liquid plastic. Very simple. One input, and it just does the work. There's nothing wrong with this recipe. This is not why we're having the massive machine by itself. The propane needs to be produced in steam crackers. There are probably other recipes for it, but this is the most straightforward one. It doesn't require any catalysts or anything like that. This one is producing residual gas and propane from methanol gas and steam. So steam right now I'm getting from an electric boiler, which just uses electricity to boil water. This is probably not the greatest choice. It would be better to use fuel. This machine uses an absurd amount of power, 1.2 megawatts. But of course it's producing steam, and steam is used to produce power, so it's got to have some loss on it, and in principle you could hook steam engines up to it. The residual gas is just getting thrown away, and of course the propane is going in here to produce plastic. But we've got to have methanol here. Let's start another tech. The next one on this line would be silicon processing. So let's get that. So methanol gas is the problem. Methanol gas, there are a few ways of producing it. None of them are particularly great in this mod pack. This is the one we're using. We'll get back to that. One method is to use synthesis gas with carbon dioxide and use a green metal catalyst. I don't know if we can produce a green metal catalyst right now or not, but the synthesis gas processing tech is a blue tech that we don't have. So this one's off limits right now. This one uses a green metal catalyst to convert carbon dioxide and hydrogen into methanol gas, and we do have this. I think this is actually the one that we're going to use, and the green metal catalyst, now that I think about it, uses silver. So silver I don't have yet. That's the reason we can't use this one. This one is probably the preferred one over the long run, because it just uses carbon dioxide that's pretty easy to obtain, hydrogen that's a waste gas from other processes. We've just got to have that silver to make the catalyst, and we can get an abundant supply of methanol gas pretty quick. 2 seconds for 100. Okay. This one uses methane gas and steam. Thankfully, no catalyst. The problem is methane gas is a natural gas product, and producing natural gas in this mod pack is a non-trivial process. It's also true oil and gas processing produces a ton of side products that you've got to deal with. You can flare them all off and destroy them, or you can barrel them up and store them, or whatever, but you've just got to deal with a bunch of stuff with it, and I'd rather have robots to sort out all those liquids. Just barrel them up, let the robots sort them out, call it good. Some of them you will end up throwing out. Okay, silicon processing finished. Let's do another tech. It's kind of a distraction to do all these techs, but I want to get them done. Next, let's go for resin, if we can. It is available. Let's research it. Okay, let's go back in here. So that was the method using, this was the method from natural gas and oil, effectively. And like I said, it's a little bit of a problem in this mod pack. It would be great in some other scenarios because you could just pull it out of the ground. Okay, that's a barreling recipe. This is the one that this apparatus is using. It's converting 20 cellulose fiber into 100 methanol gas. Well, cellulose fiber is readily available, so we do have a mechanism for producing methanol gas that's relatively cheap and easy. The problem is the recipe takes 30 seconds to complete. So you've got to have a lot of these machines to get this stuff going. And that's why we've got all this going here. Let me go ahead, and this is all back stuffed right now. Let me go ahead and let it make some more plastic. And we can see what's going to happen. Basically, these arboretums are not going to be able to keep up with the necessary wood, so it's never going to run at the full pace that we would like for it to. It will start up, however, and run for a little bit. While we're waiting on that, let's go for the next tech. This is the one we're wanting, advanced electronics. This is going to open up a whole bunch of other techs along the way. So we'll get it, and there we go. And it's going to come along. All right, so we're generating the gas. Everything's sort of back stuffed right now, so it's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut, and we'll get back when either the research finishes or this has made a little progress. Okay, it looks like we are about to finish the advanced electronics tech in a minute, and it also looks like we're beginning to run low on wood. Only one side of this has any wood backed up now, so production is probably going to start slowing down on this in a little bit. It's still going because the machines are still full, but that's not going to continue. Eventually this wood is going to run out, and then we're going to lose all of the back stuffing on the gases, and it's not going to shut down, but it's going to be much slower. One of the things that did happen when I started this machine up is the base was mostly idle because I didn't have any research going and hadn't been doing any research for a while. But if we look at the 1 hour chart here, the power about doubled. So this apparatus is actually pulling about 9 megawatts of power, maybe even close to 10. That's quite a lot. Now that does include the trees over here and some of the other machinery associated with the trees, but still that's quite a bit of power to produce such a paltry amount of plastic. The power is nothing I can't deal with. I can probably take the base up to 100 megawatts now if I want, based on just the fuel oil I'm already producing. Maybe even more than that. But the difficulty is we're only getting a tiny amount of plastic for all that. That's a little bit more of an issue. Okay, advanced electronics. That didn't open up as many techs directly as I thought it might. Let's go ahead and let's get engine. Engine will open up a lot more stuff for us, including the cargo robots from Angels. So we'll hit research on that. And I'm just going to leave this running. The power drain is not really an issue at the moment. It's not going to run my fuel out or anything, although pulling so much power consumes more power all by itself because it fires up the algae farms that normally wouldn't be running that fast. Okay, so what else is on the agenda today? I do want to point out that I have marked out more lanes for where the bus through the base is going to be. I am going to set up a bus. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the pipes that are on it right now. I am going to be moving this stuff over here back so that it's not on this area anymore. The problem with the pipes on the bus is that eventually I'm going to get a car because it's taking a long time to do all this running around, and I can't have all these pipes on the bus if I want to drive on it. And it's kind of a convenient spot to drive on. Power lines, having one in the middle is not a problem. Eventually that one can go away because I can get the better power poles. But for now, having one in the middle is not a problem, even with a car, because just one pole in a straight line is pretty easy to avoid. And there's lots of space around it anyway. Okay, so what I want to look at today is two things. First of all, let's take a look at this hydro refining that we set up in the last episode. I have made some changes. This is still doing, what is this, rubite. I'm a little backed up now on aluminum. We're going to do aluminum processing in just a minute so that we can correct that. But I decided I got rid of the hydro plant here and got rid of the clarifier because I don't need it anymore. I decided to go for a system of circulating barrels on belts in order to both bring in purified water and to remove the wastewater. And that is actually working just fine. Obviously, there's some backup on the belts or backup of barrels. You can never do a circulating barrel system without having backups in various places. You just have to have enough barrels so that you can deal with it. I set up the same apparatus for handling this Jivolite or Jivolite, whatever it is over here. That also works. This produces a slightly different mix of metals. It does produce more aluminum, which is good because I'm going to need more aluminum, and it produces zinc, which is something that I would not otherwise have. Besides that, it produces iron and copper, and it produces it in such a ratio that it has more iron than copper, which is what I need right now. Okay, so we got to clear all this back up, and how are we going to do that? Well, it's stuffed on aluminum here because this aluminum ore is going onto this belt, but it's not coming off. And unlike the nickel and the silicon from the other processing, I haven't set up any inventory to hold excess. So I need to do something with this, and I've already put a building in place where I'm going to do it. So let's set up aluminum processing. Aluminum processing is different from, let's say, lead. Lead, you bring in the ore and you just smelt the ore directly in this machine. You do have some complications because you're having to bring in oxygen and you're having to get rid of sulfur dioxide. So lead is a little more complicated than iron, but it's still simpler than aluminum. So on aluminum, what we're going to have to do, if we go into FNEI here, let's look up aluminum. We're producing the ingots right now. And to produce the ingots, that's not the recipe we're using. This one requires a more advanced smelting than we've got. We are going to be using, let's see, that says what we do with them. Yeah, I don't want that. I want how we produce them. Here's how we produce them. We're going to combine carbon and alumina. Well, we don't have alumina, we have aluminum ore. So how do we get alumina? That comes from aluminum hydroxide. Aluminum hydroxide comes from aluminum ore and sodium hydroxide. And sodium hydroxide is a byproduct of a variety of processes. The one that we're going to use right now is we're going to use saline water electrolysis. This is what chlorine processing got us. We're going to take saline water and we're going to run it through an electrolyzer, and we're going to get sodium hydroxide, chlorine gas, and hydrogen gas. Now, we already have a small amount of sodium hydroxide. There's some that I've already brought over here, but I'm going to go back and show where it came from. That system of circulating barrels processing wastewater and sending purified water back is coming out of this building, which is where all that stuff goes. It all gets put on a belt that's a return belt, and right now it's just got slag running on it. But this normally would have slag and geodes and barrels of wastewater. This is basically a waste line, and it's just a mixed line. That comes in here, the slag gets separated off and sent away, and all the rest of the stuff goes in this warehouse where we are currently accumulating geodes because I don't have any processing for them yet. I do need to set up geode processing. The difficulty I've got right now is that I'm just not using all the materials I've got, so there's not really a whole lot of point in producing more. I've got to get more research and production going to do that. Okay, so the barrels are actually coming out on this filter. Empty barrels, nitric wastewater, fluoric wastewater. Those are what we're producing right now. And they come through here and get split up in various ways and go through a hydro plant where it gets processed. However, the important part is that this is lossy on purified water. So purified water, when it gets returned, has to be topped off. And in the process, we produce saline as a waste product. The saline is going through the electrolyzer using this recipe for saline water electrolysis, which produces sodium hydroxide as a result, and it goes in here. And I've got 35 of them accumulated here since the last time I pulled them out. So that's where that's coming from, and we're going to set up that same setup in aluminum processing so that we have an indefinite amount of it. So let's take a look at what we got. First of all, we have to have our sodium hydroxide, and what we're going to do with that, and I've already built all the machines, that's what you just saw there. I'm going to have to have 2 of these blast furnaces. Let's sort of work the process from the back end first. So the end of the process, we're going to be producing aluminum ingots. And we've got to have carbon and alumina for that. Carbon is coming in over here. So we can do that, and we're going to output aluminum ingots. We can just go ahead and set the belt up for sending those out. So aluminum ingots are going out there, and we're going to get carbon in here. And I got that running backwards, didn't I? Okay, there we go. So we'll get carbon in there. We also are going to need fuel in here. So let's go ahead and get fuel up that way. But before I do that, there is going to be one other thing that happens. We've got to get alumina out. And alumina, or we got to get alumina into it. What I'm going to do with that, if I've got the right items here, I don't see any. Okay. Let's make some of those. I'm going to use a loader to put alumina in. And I'm going to put a buffer chest here in the middle. And I'm going to do that so that I can save some alumina if I have any surplus and actually use it for something. Because alumina is also used for other things. In particular, it's used for making ceramic filters, which are filters that don't require charcoal. So that's handy. So we're going to also go ahead and put down the other smelter here. And the reason we're putting that down right now is because we've got to run fuel to both of these. So let's go ahead and put a splitter there, and a loader here and here. And we'll go ahead and hook these up and run our fuel up that way. Okay, so now we have our carbon in here. We're getting, there we go. It tried to fuel with carbon as well, and we certainly don't want that. We want it to use these fuel pellets. Okay, probably, I don't know, if I have extra aluminum coming in there, that's probably not a problem. Okay, well we can't, this one is going to be making alumina. And to do that, we need aluminum hydroxide. Aluminum hydroxide comes from a powder mixer, which is that thing right there. And we're going to go ahead and ship it in, just like that. And we're going to tell this to make aluminum hydroxide. This thing can also make glass mixture, which we'll use for making glass in bulk at some point. So this is going to take aluminum ore and sodium hydroxide. Aluminum ore is coming in from down here, or will be. And I think we're going to go ahead and have sodium hydroxide. We don't have a line for it yet, but it's going to come in through here, just like that. Let me just step outside, and I will put a belt down there to mark that so we can see the arrow. And that's going to go in there like that. I'm also probably in the short term, well, this is going to be the source for it from outside. And the difficulty here is going to be that the source from outside for a long time is not going to be sufficient to run this process. So we're also going to have generation in here. Let's go ahead and get the next research going since it knows what it's doing. I really think rails I don't need for a long time probably. I've got to build land to spread out the base to have any use for that. The better power poles would help. I've got to have brass for them. That is going to be something I set up, but probably not quite yet. Electric engine would open up flight eventually. as well as robotics here. We don't need this one for the Angels stuff though. Let's go ahead and do cargo robots from Angels. And I may play with that a little bit between episodes. Okay, so what I want to do here is, for now, let's put a splitter down there. Do I have a splitter? It doesn't appear that I do. Okay, so we'll put it here, and for the moment, I'm going to put that there, and I'll just put this chest here, and I will assign the splitter to make the input priority the left, so it prefers to pull things out of the chest if there's anything in there. Go ahead and put our alumina in there, and it will all flow into here. So next, let's go ahead and set up local production of sodium hydroxide so that when this runs out, we'll have some more available. To do that, I'm going to need to set up an electrolyzer setup. So let's come over here, and we'll put that there. And let's go ahead and situate an electrolyzer in here somewhere that isn't awful. Everywhere is awful, I think. But we'll go ahead and put the electrolyzer there. And we're going to need saline water, so we're going to set up a hydro plant. We'll do that there. And it's going to produce saline here. So saline will go out here and come in there. Now there is a salination plant that we don't have the tech for yet. I don't know if it's a blue tech or not, but we're probably still a ways from having it. It would produce saline at a much faster rate. Now this also produces purified water, and we actually probably don't want purified water. So let's clarify that away. This is what sort of makes it wasteful. But eventually maybe we'll have enough stuff coming in through this way from waste from other processes that we don't need to run this. And we can replace this with a salination plant and it will be more efficient at some point. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and I took one too many belts off. We'll pull out of this machine. And this is going to do saline water electrolysis. So we're going to need to dispose of the waste products because we don't need either the chlorine or the hydrogen at this point. So we're going to be even more wasteful. And now we need some water. Do I have a... I don't seem to have one on me at the moment, but I can make one. Let's make a water well pump. So as you can see, aluminum is a whole lot more complicated than iron. And this should fire up as soon as I put the pump down. Okay, putting the pump down. There we go. We're getting water in here. We're getting saline in here. It's going to be a little slow because saline is a relatively low volume product compared to the water that we're destroying over here. But we're getting sodium hydroxide out here one little bitty piece at a time, so it's not fast. However, this recipe does use, let's see, it only needs, where is it? Alumina goes, oh, it's this one right here. It only needs 3 aluminum hydroxide for 12 aluminum ore. So each aluminum hydroxide that comes out here effectively represents 4 aluminum ingots. Okay, so heading back out here, we need to get our aluminum ore in here, and then this process should basically be ready to start spitting out aluminum. Okay, next tech, let's go for the next cargo robot tech. This one extends it a little bit, adds an active provider chest. So we need to go there, there, There. And there. And we will need a splitter. And we prefer to take off the belt there, so we're going to do it that way. And so we should now have aluminum flooding in here, and I'm going to try to beat the flow to get the stuff out of my inventory. Okay, so aluminum should be coming in right here any second now. There we go, we're getting aluminum in here. And we're getting alumina out of here, or aluminum hydroxide. It's going in here and producing alumina, and that's coming up here and making aluminum ingots, which are going out the back. Alright, so one more step in this process, and that is to take these aluminum ingots, and I have already set up an ingot caster here, and we got a belt running out. It doesn't go all the way to the bus yet. I'll take care of that later. But let's go ahead and get these ingots up here. It looks like we're about to have aluminum. I have to set the recipe first, I guess, though. And I'll have to set it up here too. Okay. Alright, so there's our first aluminum plates. The very first 4 coming off the line now. Right there. Alright, so that takes care of aluminum processing, and I will have to get that set up on the bus, and we'll be getting that done. And hopefully this will not be quite so backed up, and with all the research, some of the copper's coming off of here, so hopefully we'll get some metals cleared up and can continue producing things pretty soon. So between episodes, I'm going to finish this research here with Cargo Robots 3, which gets us the relatively fast one, and I may play around with it some. I do have to have red circuits for some of these things, so I can't go all gung-ho with it because I don't have that yet. But as soon as I do, I will have something going. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.